There are people who do not break. Not in the way the world expects. They don't snap in half under pressure. They don't tremble with panic. They don't scream for help. They don't collapse into someone else's arms. They simply fade, quietly, slowly, without spectacle, without noise. They dissolve in the same silence they were raised in, disappearing in small, unnoticeable ways, like a candle burning itself out in an empty room. And no one ever sees the moment the flame goes from flickering to gone. You've met people like this. Maybe you are one of them. The ones who always look fine, even when fine is the furthest thing from the truth. The ones who keep showing up, even when their soul is exhausted. The ones who keep smiling with that soft, practiced curve of the mouth, the kind that doesn't reach their eyes anymore. They keep talking, keep answering, keep existing. But less and less of them is really here. Their body remains. Their mind functions. But their spirit, it drifts quietly, toward some distant shoreline no one else can see. People think fading looks gentle, delicate, poetic. But in reality, it's brutal. It's suffocating. It's the kind of pain that leaves no bruises, and therefore earns no concern. They fade because breaking would draw attention, and attention feels like danger. They fade because they have been taught that their suffering is something to hide, something to carry privately, something that would burden the world if exposed. So they fold themselves inward, again and again, until there is barely anything left. They learned this earliest somewhere in a childhood, where emotions were unwelcome guests, where vulnerability was punished or ignored, where crying didn't bring comfort, but consequences. They survived moments where being expressive got them labeled dramatic, where needing comfort made them feel needy, where asking for help made them feel like they were too much. They adapted, they swallowed, they silenced. They turned themselves into emotional minimalists, carrying only what they believed would not inconvenience anyone around them. But that kind of adaptation always has a cost. When you silence yourself enough times, you start to disappear. When you deny your pain long enough, you lose the map back to it. When you teach your body not to break, it learns instead to evaporate. People who fade are not weak, they're trained, sculpted by years of being the calm one, the steady one, the reliable one, the quiet one, the strong one, who never asks for anything in return. And the world loves people like that. Not because they're understood, but because they're convenient. It's easy to love someone who doesn't fall apart. It's easy to admire someone who never expresses how deeply they are hurting. People who fade are the emotional shock absorbers of everyone around them. They carry the tension. They absorb the conflict. They remain composed while everyone else collapses. When someone like this is in the room, people breathe easier. But the tragedy is that no one ever asks whether they are breathing at all. They become experts at hiding the slow death occurring inside them. And no one notices the early signs, the way their laughter becomes quieter, thinner, less impulsive. The way they speak more slowly, as if choosing which pieces of themselves they can afford to give away. The way they start saying, "I'm tired," instead of "I'm sad," and "I'm busy," instead of "I'm lonely," and "it's fine," instead of "I'm not okay." People accept those answers because it's easier than digging deeper. Because people rarely look past the surface unless the surface cracks. But people who fade don't crack. They don't give anyone that entry point. Their suffering becomes invisible by design. Inside them, the fading is far from quiet. It is a storm, windless but violent. They feel the slow erosion of their own edges, the thinning of their emotional fabric. They feel their desires shrinking, their dreams dulling, their hopes repeating the same sentence. Maybe this is just who I am now. They feel their soul dim like a hallway light in a house no one visits anymore. They become shadows of themselves, still recognizable, still functioning, still present, but somehow lighter. As if a gust of wind could carry them away. And yet the world keeps calling them strong. It's strange how people misuse that word. Strength should never mean you're good at hurting silently. It should never mean you're the one who doesn't need help. People who fade are praised for the very thing that is destroying them. They hear, "You're so calm, you're so composed, you're so mature, you're such a rock," and with every compliment, they sink a little deeper into the role that keeps them isolated. They start believing they must endure everything quietly, because that's what people expect from them. Their identity becomes intertwined with their ability to disappear gracefully. But deep down, somewhere beneath the layers of practiced calmness, there is a quiet desperation. a longing to be truly seen without having to break first, a desire to be understood without having to erupt, a hope that maybe someone will notice they're fading before they fade completely. But they won't, not unless you know the signs. People who are fading stop reaching out, but not because they don't want connection. They stop because they don't want to disappoint anyone. They stop because reaching out feels like a risk they no longer have the strength to take. They answer messages with shorter replies, not because they don't care, but because every word feels heavy. They stop sharing details of their life because they assume no one wants to hear them. They cancel plans quietly. They withdraw gently. They detach softly, hoping no one will notice the hurt behind the withdrawal. And for a while, people don't. Fading feels like walking backwards into darkness. Like slipping underwater while pretending to float. Like being in a crowded room, but slowly becoming translucent. Like losing your own outline, your own shape, your own presence. It's not that they want to disappear, it's that they no longer know how to stay. If you ask them how they're doing, they'll tell you the truth in a lie. I'm tired. Because tired is easier than admitting they're unraveling. Tired is acceptable. Tired won't scare anyone. But tired, for them, means something different. It means emotionally drained, spiritually empty, psychologically worn down to the bone. Tired means they have been carrying the weight of their own silence for so long that it has become a second skeleton. There is a particular loneliness reserved for people who fade. The loneliness of being surrounded by others but unreachable to all of them. The loneliness of wanting to cry but not knowing how. The loneliness of wanting to scream but feeling like the sound wouldn't matter. The loneliness of wanting someone to notice but also fearing what would happen if they did. People who fade don't fear vulnerability, they fear the consequences of it. They fear loss. They fear rejection. They fear the possibility that if they opened their mouth, their grief would spill out uncontrollably. They fear being too much. So they choose to be less visible, less needy, less emotional, less alive. And yet, underneath all of that, there remains a small ember, a tiny, stubborn spark that refuses to die completely. It's the part of them that still hopes someone will sit beside them and stay long enough to see the dimming. Not judge it, not rush it, not demand explanations, just sit in the quiet and say, I see you. You don't have to fade here. People who fade don't need saving, they need presence. They need gentleness. They need understanding without interrogation. They need someone who recognizes that silence is not emptiness, but overflow. Someone who understands that fading is not a choice, but a symptom. If you are someone who fades, you probably learned that disappearing protects you. But disappearing also erases you. And you deserve more than erasure. You deserve a place where your voice doesn't echo back empty. You deserve people who stay when you go quiet. You deserve softness, support, and the safety to be seen. Fully, not just the convenient parts. Maybe no one has said this to you before. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. You don't have to carry everything alone. You don't have to hide the places where you feel thin. You don't have to fade to survive. You don't have to vanish to be loved. Somewhere inside you, beneath the fatigue, beneath the numbness, beneath the quiet surrender, there is still a person who wants to feel alive. That part of you is still reachable, still yearning, still waiting for permission to come back. You don't break because you were never allowed to. But you can return before the fading becomes final. You can reclaim yourself, piece by quiet piece. You can choose presence over disappearance, even if gently, even if slowly. You are not gone, not yet, not truly. And anyone who takes the time to truly look will see the spark still burning in you.